Remember when summers felt endless? When waiting for your birthday felt like waiting for a lifetime? Fast forward to now, you blink, and it's December again. Time used to walk. Now it runs. But what if I told you time hasn't changed? You have. Every year feels shorter, every moment more fleeting. You plan, you scroll, you sleep, you wake, and somehow entire months have evaporated into memory. Where did the time go? Science tells us the clocks haven't sped up, but your brain is screaming for an explanation. And that's where things get strange. Because maybe time isn't what you think it is. What if time isn't a straight line, but a feeling? What if those ticking seconds are an illusion, and the real clock is in your mind? Over 100 years ago, a French philosopher named Henri Bergson dared to ask the same question, and his answer was radical. Time, he said, is not measured by clocks, but by consciousness. To Bergson, time wasn't just something you track, it was something you live. And the more alive you are, the longer time feels. But in today's world where routines blur and screens numb the senses, we're not just losing time, we're losing our connection to it. So in this video, we're diving into Bergson's mind-bending theory, exploring how psychology, philosophy, and neuroscience all reveal the truth behind why time feels like it's slipping away, and how you can take it back. Because time isn't vanishing, you're just forgetting to feel it. Let's change that. One is cold, ticking, exact. It lives on your wrist, on your wall, inside your phone. The other, it lives in your soul. It bends, stretches, freezes, and flies, depending on how deeply you're living. Welcome to the war between clock time and live time. Society taught you that time is simple: seconds, minutes, hours, years. You're born at 0, retire at 65, celebrate on New Year's, panic on Mondays. But Henri Bergson said this was a lie, not malicious, just incomplete. Because those seconds, they don't tell you how a moment feels. Let's say you're stuck in traffic. You check the clock every 30 seconds. 5 minutes feel like 50. Now imagine you're laughing with friends under the stars. 2 hours pass in what feels like 10 minutes. Same clock, different world. Bergson called this la durée, lived time. Time, he said, is not a line, it's a flow. It's the river of your inner life, shaped by emotions, memories, awareness. And unlike the cold tick of seconds, lived time has texture. It has weight. But here's the problem. Modern life is obsessed with the other clock. The one that divides your life into spreadsheets and deadlines. 9 to 5's, 15-minute meetings, 30-second videos. Efficiency over experience. We've traded presence for productivity, depth for deadlines. You can live an entire week and not remember a single vivid moment from it. Why? Because clock time was in control. You were moving but not experiencing. Think of it this way. Clock time is a spreadsheet, neat, logical, emotionless. Lived time is a diary, messy, emotional, deeply human. When you're stuck in routines, your mind goes numb. You stop making memories. You stop noticing moments. That's why time seems to collapse. Because your brain isn't capturing it. We're not trained to live in lived time. We're trained to measure, to optimize, to maximize. But Bergson says that's not living, that's counting. Real time isn't something you track. It's something you feel, and the more you feel, the longer life becomes. So if you want to reclaim your time, the first step is simple. Stop watching the clock. Start watching yourself. Because that ticking second hand isn't your enemy. The real enemy is numbness. Your brain doesn't measure time the way a clock does. It doesn't care how many minutes pass, only how deeply you experience them. That's where memory comes in. More specifically, the hippocampus, your brain's memory architect. It records your life not in hours, but in moments that matter. And here's the twist. The richer the moment, the longer it feels. This is why a week-long vacation in a new city feels longer than a month of commuting to the same job. Why a spontaneous night out burns brighter in your memory than 30 evenings spent scrolling in bed. Novelty doesn't just excite you, it stretches time. When your brain encounters something unfamiliar, a strange food, a new face, a sudden adventure, it kicks into high gear. It takes detailed notes. It stamps that memory with texture, color, feeling. Your brain becomes a camera, and novelty presses the shutter. This is the secret behind the vacation effect. You go somewhere new, every street corner, every sound, every smell is unfamiliar. So your brain records everything. and in memory the trip feels huge. Now contrast that with your average work week. Same routine, same faces, same meetings. Your brain hits autopilot and stops recording. It saves energy by skipping the details. You lived 7 days, but your memory only kept the title, another regular week. That's temporal compression. Your brain squeezing days into a single blur, and here's the science to back it up. In a 2016 study, participants listened to unfamiliar music. They consistently reported those songs as feeling longer in duration than familiar ones, even though the track lengths were the same. Why? Because novelty demands attention. The hippocampus becomes alert. Time slows down, not in reality, but in experience. When life becomes predictable, time becomes invisible. So as you age and your world fills with repetition, your brain begins to compress the years, not out of cruelty, out of efficiency. But Bergson warned us about this. He said we mistake time for a schedule, a calendar, a to-do list. But real time, lived time, flows from emotion, memory, and presence. If you want to stretch time, you don't need more hours. You need more moments that matter. At age 10, a single year is massive. It's 10% of your entire life. Summer feels eternal. A birthday takes forever to arrive. But at 50, a year is just 2% of your life. And it flies by before you can blink. This is the heart of the proportional theory, a psychological model that explains why time feels faster as we grow older. When you're young, every experience is new, every emotion, intense. The world is full of firsts. First bike ride, first sleepover, first heartbreak. And those firsts leave deep marks in memory. They create anchor points, mental timestamps that stretch perception. But as you grow older, life becomes a series of patterns. Wake up, work, eat, scroll, sleep. Repeat. You've already celebrated 30 birthdays, already been through 10 winters. Your brain stops labeling the moments as memorable. And without those vivid markers, time folds in on itself. Ask any adult. Wasn't it just June? Because without novelty, every month starts to feel the same. Think about it. As a kid, one school year held 1,000 little milestones. New friends, new teachers, field trips, drama, growth. As an adult, it's just another cycle of meetings, errands, emails, obligations. This is how predictability compresses time. Your mind, no longer challenged, starts fast forwarding. You live in loops, and loops are forgettable. That's why holidays, once magical, now arrive like routine checkpoints. Why birthdays start to feel more like reminders than celebrations. Bergson didn't just see this as a psychological quirk, he saw it as a crisis. A warning that we were letting clock time replace human time, that we were trading wonder for routine, and shrinking our lives without even noticing. But here's the hope buried inside the theory. Time only speeds up when you stop feeling it, and you can choose to feel again, by noticing, by breaking patterns, by creating new firsts, even as an adult. You don't need to rewind the years. You just need to reclaim them. Paris, 1922. The air was thick with intellect and revolution. On one side stood Albert Einstein, the man who bent the universe with numbers. On the other, Henri Bergson, the philosopher of time, memory and human soul. This was more than a debate. It was a collision of worlds. Einstein had just won the Nobel Prize. His theory of relativity redefined time as the fourth dimension, something that could slow down near planets, stretch with motion, and be measured with staggering precision. To Einstein, time was a mathematical constant, ticking equally for all, unless acted upon by gravity or speed. But Bergson stepped up with a different truth. To him, Einstein's time was sterile, useful, yes, but hollow. A skeleton with no heartbeat. You speak of time as a coordinate, Bergson said, but what about the experience of time? Einstein replied coldly, the time of the philosophers does not exist. And just like that, the war began. Einstein spoke for the cosmos. Bergson spoke for the consciousness that watches the cosmos. Einstein gave us clocks that guide satellites, GPS, the internet. Bergson gave us the language for everything we feel when time slips away during joy, grief, or awe. Truth versus meaning. Equations versus memories. Science crowned Einstein the victor. His formulas reshaped technology, but Bergson's ideas, they never died, they bled quietly into psychology, art, and mindfulness. Today we live in Einstein's world, satellites adjusting for time dilation, but we suffer in Bergson's, watching life flash by while we barely feel it. Einstein taught us how to measure time. Bergson begged us to remember how to live it. So if time is shrinking, if our days blur into each other, if our memories feel thin, what can we do? Bergson's answer wasn't complicated. It wasn't high-tech or scientific. It was human. To reclaim time, you must rebel, not with protests or slogans, but with presence, novelty, and conscious living. Routine is a time thief. It seduces you with comfort and steals your days when you're not looking. Do one thing different tomorrow. Take a new route to work. Brush your teeth with the opposite hand. Eat breakfast for dinner. Small disruptions shock the brain into attention. And where there is attention, there is memory. And where there is memory, time expands. Your brain is a novelty addict. When it encounters something new, it slows time down, not because reality changes, but because your experience deepens. You don't need a passport. You just need curiosity. Talk to someone new. Read a strange book. Learn an uncomfortable skill. Go somewhere without a destination. The unknown stretches time. The familiar compresses it. Novelty isn't just about travel. It's about waking up inside your own life. Practice mindfulness. Your mind loves to time travel, replaying regrets, rehearsing fears. But time is only alive when you are here. Use the 5-4-3-2-1 trick to ground yourself. 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. Do it while drinking coffee, or walking, or sitting in silence. Presence is the doorway to Bergson's time. It turns passing seconds into felt moments. You don't have to do more. You have to feel more. Take 5 minutes, and do absolutely nothing. No music, no phone, no stimulation, just exist. Boredom is not your enemy. It's the blank canvas where the mind stretches out, where ideas are born, and where lived time begins to breathe again. Delete a filler app. Take a tech Sabbath once a week. Stare at the sky. Let your mind wander. Every day, change 3 small things. Your playlist, your lunch spot, the way you greet someone. Tiny changes cause micro disruptions in your brain's autopilot system. They jolt the hippocampus awake. Suddenly the day is no longer a blur. It becomes storied again. Bergson said time isn't a ruler. It doesn't move forward in inches and minutes. It flows like a river. It curves, it crashes. It slows, it vanishes. And you are not standing beside it. You're in it. So swim. Dive deep. Get lost in the current of your own life. Time isn't escaping. You're just not noticing it. You don't need more hours in a day. You need more presence in your moments. Life isn't short. It's just compressed. And now you know how to stretch it again. You've probably said it yourself. Where did the time go? But the truth is, time didn't go anywhere. It didn't speed up. It didn't slip away. Your brain just stopped paying attention. The moments blurred, not because they were empty, but because you weren't fully in them. Bergson warned us of this over a century ago. Time is invention, or it is nothing at all. It's not just something we move through. It's something we create, with memory, with emotion, with presence. And if time feels shorter now, it's because you've stopped inventing it. But you can begin again. You can notice the coffee, feel the laughter, sink into silence, get lost in wonder, and reclaim your seconds, one vivid moment at a time. So now we ask you, when did time feel slowest for you? Was it a childhood summer, a heartbreak, a moment of awe? Tell us in the comments. Let's build a time map together, one story at a time. And if you felt something in this video, if it sparked a memory, a question, a shift, don't let it fade.